The gas lamps of Edinburgh cast long, dancing shadows that night, their flickering glow doing little to dispel the pervasive damp that clung to the cobblestone streets like a shroud. In the heart of the city, a different kind of darkness festered, a secret whispered in hushed tones in the taverns and alleyways. It was 1828, and the thirst for knowledge, particularly in the burgeoning field of anatomy, was insatiable. William Burke, a burly Irishman with eyes that could turn from jovial to chilling in an instant, nursed his ale at a grimy public house. Beside him sat his compatriot, William Hare, a man of slighter build, but with a cunning that belied his nervous demeanor. The air was thick with the stench of stale beer and unspoken ambition. Their initial venture had been born of desperation, a grim inheritance from a lodger who'd met an untimely end in Hare's boarding house on Tanner's Close. A young man, it seemed, had succumbed to a sudden illness, leaving behind a body that, in the eyes of the law, was destined for a pauper's grave. But Burke and Hare saw an opportunity. Dr. Robert Knox, the esteemed anatomist at Surgeon Square, was a man of immense talent and, it was rumored, an even greater appetite for cadavers. The practice of grave robbing, while illegal, was common enough, but it was a risky and often fruitless endeavor. The supply rarely met the demand, and a steady stream of fresh bodies was crucial for his dissections and lectures. To Burke and Hare, Knox's generous payment of £7 to £10 per corpse, a small fortune in those days, was a beacon in the oppressive fog of their poverty. Their first transaction, procuring the body of their deceased lodger, had been a clandestine affair, a hurried nocturnal delivery to the back entrance of Knox's establishment. The anatomist, smelling faintly of formaldehyde and something altogether more metallic, had paid them without question, his keen eyes scrutinizing the preserved form more than the men who delivered it. He was a man who valued results, not provenance. The realization, however, dawned on them with a chilling clarity. Why wait for people to die? The transition was a terrifyingly swift one. The grim necessity they had initially embraced morphed into a calculated enterprise. The poor, the drunk, the solitary souls who drifted through Edinburgh's underbelly, these became their currency. They were the unwanted, the forgotten, the ones whose disappearance would likely go unnoticed. Their method was as brutal as it was efficient. A quiet evening, a few drinks, and then a careful smothering with a pillow. No screams, no struggles that would attract attention. Just a silent, suffocating end, leaving no outward marks that would raise suspicion. The body, still warm and unervingly pristine, was then bundled and delivered to Surgeon Square, often under the cloak of darkness. Fresh was the only requirement, fresh and unmarked. Knox, absorbed in his anatomical pursuits, asked no further questions. The money flowed, and with it a growing sense of invincibility. The dingy boarding house, once a symbol of their destitution, became a macabre larder. The hushed footsteps on the stairs, the furtive glances, the clinking of coins, these were the sounds that underscored their burgeoning, deadly trade. The victims came and went, nameless and faceless in the grand scheme of their operation. A seamstress lost in drink, a disabled beggar found slumped in an alley, a transient sailor with no ties to the city. Each life extinguished was a step towards a fleeting comfort, a brief respite from the gnawing hunger and the gnawing fear. Their partnership, forged in shared hardship, was now cemented in a pact of mutual, horrific complicity. But the city, while often indifferent, had a long memory and a penchant for curiosity. Whispers began to circulate. hushed murmurs of the peculiar frequency with which certain types of people vanished from the cobbled streets. And then there was the matter of the lodgers themselves. One particular night, Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, a respectable couple visiting Edinburgh, arrived at Hare's boarding house seeking accommodation. A foul odor, something vaguely unpleasant and cloying, permeated the building, and a general air of unease seemed to hang heavy in the air. Mrs. Jenkins, a woman with an unnervingly sharp nose for anything out of place, found herself increasingly disturbed. She noticed a peculiar stillness about the establishment, a lack of the usual comings and goings one would expect in a lodging house. Her attention was drawn to a room at the end of a narrow corridor, a room that remained stubbornly closed. A faint, unsettling sound, like a muffled cry, had occasionally drifted from within. Driven by a growing disquiet, and with her husband's reluctant agreement, she decided to investigate. The door was locked, but a loose floorboard near the frame provided a precarious vantage point. Peering through the gap, Mrs. Jenkins' blood ran cold. Hidden beneath the rickety bed, a human shape was discernible, a dark lump shrouded in shadow and the lingering reek of decay. Their discovery sent a ripple of alarm through the city. Word spread like wildfire, and the authorities, spurred by the public outcry, descended upon Hare's boarding house. The scene that greeted them was grim, confirming Mrs. Jenkins' terrifying premonition. The police, however, found themselves facing a frustrating lack of concrete evidence. While the presence of the corpse was undeniable, the means of its demise were for the moment a mystery. In this critical juncture, Hare's nerve, always his weakest point, began to fray. The prospect of the gallows, a stark and terrifying reality, loomed large. He saw a path, a desperate gambit, a chance to claw his way back from the precipice of condemnation. He confessed. He implicated Burke. Under the grim protection of the law, Hare agreed to testify against his partner, offering his full immunity for Burke's conviction. The deal was struck, a chilling testament to the desperation of one man and the expediency of justice. The trial was a sensation. The city, which had turned a blind eye for so long, now clamored for retribution. Burke, the more robust and it seemed the more dominant of the two, was presented as the mastermind, the architect of their ghastly enterprise. Hare, a shadow of his former self, recounted their grim deeds with a chillingly detached air, his testimony damning. William Burke was found guilty. The day of his execution was a spectacle. Thousands gathered in the Lawn Market, a vast expectant throng eager to witness the final act of the notorious body snatchers. The gallows stood stark against the gray Edinburgh sky, a grim monument to their depravity. Burke, displaying a defiant courage that some mistook for remorse, was hanged. But the final chapter of his story was yet to be written in the annals of Edinburgh's macabre history. In a twist that was both gruesome and fitting, Burke's body, as per the custom for murderers, was delivered to Dr. Robert Knox himself. The very man who had profited from his crimes was now to dissect the very instrument of his damnation. The public dissection was a grim spectacle, a final potent lesson in the consequences of unchecked ambition and the dark underbelly of scientific progress. Blood, spilled for the sake of knowledge, was even collected, it is said, and used to create macabre souvenirs, a chilling echo of the lives so brutally extinguished. And then there is the ultimate, unsettling epilogue. William Burke's skeleton, preserved and mounted, still hangs in the Anatomical Museum of the University of Edinburgh to this day, a silent, stark reminder of the horrors that unfolded in the shadow of medical advancement, a chilling testament to the lengths to which desperation and greed can drive men, and the lasting skeletal imprint they leave upon the world. The damp Edinburgh air still seems to carry the echo of their deeds, a whisper of the bodies that vanished and the lives that were stolen, all for the pursuit of knowledge and the cold, hard currency of death.